Hello, my lovelies. It says I'm live, and I think I'm live. I'm wearing my crazy Joe Mitchell Rookie Lee Jones hat. I haven't worn it in like a year or two. I got my funky shirt on. I was wearing it the other day when I was about to go live, and then I got summoned to the veterinarian hospital with Coco. And so I did a crazy little pre-recorded in my car on the way to Columbus. Anyway, it's just been so hard to get onto my lives. I had one scheduled yesterday. You might have seen it. And then I had to change the topic because all this crazy stuff going on with our politics. And, I don't even feel like it's politics, really. I mean, I don't feel like it's such like political sides. It's just a matter of like craziness and safety. I mean, the orange man baby, sorry, not sorry if I offend anybody, he is a danger to himself and to the rest of the world. And it's time. It's time for people to quit pretending. But he's obviously just a puppet for Vladdy and Elon and whoever Elon might be a puppet for. I don't know. I mean, he might just be his own Astro Boy. So there's so much that I want to say. And of course, I've got like a grapefruit pulp stuck in my teeth. That never happens. And I ate that grapefruit like an hour ago. But I'm just cursed to have something crazy going on to sabotage my attempt at coming on live. So I think that I'll just run through the regular stuff to get the ball rolling. So please hit your like button. I know when I'm watching other people's YouTubes and they remind me to hit the like button, I'm like, oh yeah, hit the like button. Some people have that thing that says, have you hit the like button? And sometimes I say yes, and then I go hit it. Anyway, make sure that you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing so. I know that there's a lot of channels that I think I'm subscribed to. And again, when they say that and I look, I'm like, I'm not subscribed. Did I unsubscribe or did somebody else unsubscribe for me? I don't know. That can happen. It might just be a glitch, right? There's no conspiracies. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring if you want to know when I'm going live, since half the time I don't know when I'm going live. So there's so much that I want to talk about. Today is Blackout Friday. I hope everybody's been doing it. I'll be honest, I did it almost entirely. I think I spent $4 on some like Gatorade and ginger ale because I had a sick kid, which was another monkey wrench thrown into my plan of going live earlier today. So I just canceled that one. That was the one that got pushed back from yesterday. The one about Emmy Warren she was an Australian who was red rummed in Mozambique back in 2016. And it's a really interesting case, and I will put a link to it in the description. I think that there's good reason to focus on that case because it happened 9 years ago now. And it was only like maybe this last fall, like 4 or 5 months ago, that her father was finally successful in getting the official cause of her extinguishing to be transitioned from like accidental self-inflicted natural causes type of thing to homicide, which it clearly was. And it was clearly being covered up by the local law enforcement. And it makes perfect sense. The country, did I say it right? Mozambique. It's South African country that I think relies primarily on tourism. So we all know that a lot of tourist towns try to cover up any type of crimes, especially violent crimes, especially homicides, because they don't want to discourage tourists from coming and spending their money. Like that's why they started that TV show Hawaii Five-0, because there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on in Honolulu, and they tried to keep it under wraps so that people would just keep coming and spending all their money. And, the tourists would get held up by the hooligans by the busloads, right? Everybody on the bus had all kinds of money, and the hooligans knew that. So they would just hijack the whole bus and get everybody's cash and gold watches and what have you. Anyway, Hawaii 5-0. Now that was a good show. So, yesterday we all know that Gene Hackman was found deceased in his home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with his wife, who was about 34 years younger than him. I've done a little bit of research on the case, and I think it's early to make any determinations. I've paid attention to some other channels that are taking it the same way. It's not good to jump to conclusions, but it is extremely suspicious. And I think it's highly unlikely that there wasn't foul play. I'll put it that way. We know that he was about 95. She was about 63. I want to say that he was like 31 or 32 years older than her. This is an interesting factoid. From the research that I did, it said that they were last seen in public, I think, an entire year ago, and that they hadn't been seen in public together for 21 years. So they've been together for like about 30 years. Maybe 1986 was when they got together, because she's a few years older than I am. Yeah, I think they got together in 86. She was like 23 when they met, and she worked part-time at a gym that he worked out at. And he was married and had 3 kids. And did I say she was 23? And I think he ditched the whole family and has been with her ever since, till death do us part. And so I've heard one content creator speculate that they both might have like tripped and fell, and then, it was fatal, tripping and falling in 2 separate parts of the house, 2 separate situations. But that doesn't explain the dog, does it? Oh, the dog lapped up a bunch of pills. Possibly, maybe. It's a question, not an accusation. We're not accusing the dog of anything. Anyway, yeah. So it's terrible. It's terribly sad. I was watching on the Pascal show. That's a really good content creator. I like him a lot. He was talking about Gene Hackman's daughter, who said she's really tight with her dad, but she hadn't talked with him in 4 months, about approximately. And it was like, yeah, if your parent is 95 years old, you're going to want to stay in touch with them. Even if they have somebody 30 years younger than them living there, you're still going to want to stay in touch with them, because you know that anything can happen any day, right? So that doesn't make sense to say that they're tight and then to say that she lost contact with them for a few months. I mean, it doesn't mean that they didn't love each other, right? It's just, I guess it depends how you define tight. Can you guys hear me okay? It looks like I have 1 or 2 in the house, so thank you for being here. Anyway, talking about Gene Hackman reminds me a lot of Robert Blake, when he accidentally shot his girlfriend or wife in the car as they were leaving a restaurant in Hollywood. It also reminds me of another accidental gunshot white famous man who killed, unalived, a beautiful woman from another country, Ukraine to be exact. And that was right outside of Santa Fe, the set of Rust. And we all know who that was. That was Helena Hutchins and Alec Baldwin. And I think that whole case got whitewashed. I still don't think we know half the facts. Lane Looper, who pretty much knew everything, the cameraman who had just quit, who Helena was filling in for when she took the bullet, he was going to testify the next day, I think, when the judge declared a mistrial. Didn't she declare a mistrial on a Friday, or maybe it was a Thursday? And I think Lane Looper was scheduled to testify Monday or Tuesday. Anyway, they did not want him to testify because there was stuff going on. I won't recap it because there's way too much to cover, and we're here to talk more about the current situation in the Oval Office with Vance and the El Presidente bullying Zelensky, bullying him so hard today. And then you had Marjorie Taylor Greene's disgusting, despicable boyfriend. I think his name is Brian Glenn. He's a reporter. And he said, "Hey, Zelensky, I have a question for you. How come you never wear a suit? Do you even own one?" And Zelensky's just like, "Excuse me, I try to dress down to show solidarity with my people who are at war, which is why I'm here to try to put an end to that." And they're just like hassling him and basically like roughing him up. And then he says, "When the war's over, I'll try to get a nice suit, maybe something like yours, maybe something nicer, maybe something cheaper." It's a little jab for sure. And other than that, I got to say, Zelensky, and even with that, he really kept his composure and they were pushing him hard. It was theatrics, you guys. We've got a freaking drama queen with the ego the size of Texas and Alaska and Canada and Greenland and the Panama Canal combined. And he's just off his rocker. He's absolutely off his rocker. This was all theatrics. So I had this really bad feeling about this meeting today. I personally did not want Zelensky to be handing over all of these precious rare earth elements to our country. It didn't sound like a good idea. It didn't sound like it was a square deal. It sounds like Elon wants the lithium for his Teslas or something like that, right? Leon, the big E, the big easy. Fred Field, hello. I did not see a notification. I just came on like 12 minutes ago. So there was no notification prior to that because, I tried to make some pre-planned ones and they just fell apart. So I thought I'll just jump on. Anyway, where was I? I was doing the weave. So, oh, it's so cringeworthy. So they were bullying Zelensky. Zelensky was being quite the gentleman. He was really tolerating it well. I started to say that yesterday I got this really bad feeling that, call me paranoid. I thought that they were setting Zelensky up. Sorry, I've got something under my foot. Setting him up to maybe get assassinated. And I shouldn't say that word. Asinine, but different enunciation. I was afraid that there was going to be like a lone gunman there or something. And they'd be like, "Oh, how'd that happen? Who knew?" Anyway, it was definitely a setup. I think my sixth sense was right. And they were trying to I'm not saying that word. They were trying to destroy his integrity or break him. It was so gangsta. Like they jumped him. They all jumped him. There were all these people lined up behind Vance and Mark Rubio and Mr. T, just a whole line of them. One of those was Marjorie Taylor Greene's disgusting BF. Yeah, you can fill in whatever you want with the BF. Brian Glenn, disgusting guy who is like this new up and coming MAGA reporter. And he just asks these questions that aren't really questions, like the thing about bullying Zelensky for, I think, dressed in cute. He's wearing his black sweater and his black pants. And personally, I think they're jealous because he's a good looking man. He's in good shape. And none of them are any of those things. I mean, you could say Vance or Rubio, they could be considered good looking if they were nice people, but they're not nice people. They're not good looking, and they're certainly not fit. I do want to say something complimentary about Mark Rubio, though, and I've never been a fan of his. Zelensky really pissed them off, loved it. He's my man. I have always really liked him. He's just got so much integrity. He's real. He doesn't put on any charades. You know, Trump was being extremely insulting, as was JD Vance. It was all for theatrics. It was all for the camera. It was nothing but a show. Like they're serious, serious drama mamas, drama queens. Anyway, Rubio, he tried to run for the presidential, the Republican candidate, right? And I didn't like him. He's not my type. He's extremely, extremely conservative, like to a fault. You know, I have nothing against conservatism. I think that some conservatism is very intelligent, absolutely. But he's just pretty extreme, but not as extreme as the other folks in that room. And he looked so uncomfortable. I couldn't help but think that maybe he was picturing himself being in the driver's seat, being the president, having that conversation with Zelensky, and that he probably has the skill set to know how to handle it, to know how to work with the impossible. I mean, I think Putin's pretty impossible. I mean, he is horrendous. He's hideous. He's demonic, and he just wants to play games. And he's got Trump and Vance eaten out of the palm of his hand. And Zelensky's not playing. You know, Trump kept saying, you know, you don't have a hand. You don't have the cards. You're not holding the cards. And Zelensky's just like, this is not a card game. This is real life. My people are dying. They've been getting unalived in this war for years. And no, I don't have the cards. I'm not playing. Not playing. Anyway, Zelensky was on their turf. So that was one of the reasons I was getting so uncomfortable about it as the day was closing in on us at the end of this week. You know, I think we all knew for the whole week that he was going to be going to the White House today. And being on their turf puts him in a weaker predicament. So he's going to have to play by their rules to some extent. But he was not willing, despite being on an uneven playing field and living in this uneven playing field, he was not willing to betray his people, because where would that get him? Where would that get the Ukrainians? Where would that get any of us? If anybody gives in to the Russian superpowers that are faltering, they're not really superpowers at this moment, but if we allow them to be, they will be, and there's nothing that will stop them from consuming all of the nations of the entire world. And then with Elon Musk and Stargate and Starlink and all this crap, they'll be consuming all of the nationalities from other planets too. The intergalactic planetary warlord. Did you guys see the freaking post that Elon put up on X about warlords? Like, ladies, it's time to take a really good look at your boyfriends and ask yourselves, would they make a good warlord? Like, he thinks he's a freaking warlord. Trump thinks he's a warlord. Vladdy thinks he's a warlord. You know, and then they want to go criticize people like oh, the Liz Cheney for being like a war hawk. Like, who's a war hawk? They're every time they make these accusations towards other people, it's projection and confession. Absolutely. So I've got to say how much I cannot stand the accordion hands. So I know sometimes when I'm talking, I use my hands a lot because, you know, I think I'm a mime or something. It does sometimes happen when I'm not trying, I'm not thinking about it. And then I'm just like, oh my goodness. And it makes my thing robot. But I think that some people try to use their hands because they think they'll get your attention more better. They think it makes them look or sound smarter. And El Presidente does this thing. I didn't make this up. I think his niece, Mary Trump, did. She calls it accordion hands, and he talks like this. And a lot of times he's just like talking with his arms like dead weight. And then it's like it registers, he realizes that he's not being dramatic enough. So then the hands, the accordion hands come out. And then he starts talking like this and going back and forth. And it's always the same movements for anything that he's talking about. He doesn't have any other movements in his robotic repertoire. Did you guys see my thing that I shared? Was it yesterday, I think, with the Daily Show, the choreographer who was teaching Elon how to move more human-like? I've come up with a theory. I kind of concocted it when I was doing that last live. Let me grab some water real quick. This is my theory. Tell me what you think. I literally believe that the big E is, I think he's implanted some of those neurolinks in his own being. At least one, if not two, if not more. And this is why you have to have FDA regulations, because you don't know the side effects, and our bodies don't like to be messed with. They really don't. Anybody who's had surgery knows this. Any type of surgery, your entire body shuts down. Your entire body is like, oh, we got to quit functioning. We've been cut, right? This is why it's so dangerous to like be in a knife fight. And knife wounds can be some of the most fatal. Surprising to me. But anyway, the internal bleeding, that kind of stuff, it's less obvious. So if you don't get checked out, you might be more injured than you realize, and you might think you're okay, and you might not be. Anyway, what was I saying about just stuff? Going all over the place here because, late at night, the brain no worky so well. This is why I come on earlier. So the knife fight, the Elon with the brain chip, and then he's definitely abusing some kind of substances. I don't know if it's ketamine. I don't know if it's prescribed medications like Adderall. I don't know if it's like the Coca-Cola stuff that it looks like Don Jr. is into. Again, so funny how critical they all were of Biden's son, Hunter, when he admitted to having trouble with stuff like that. And good for him that he admitted it and he was getting help. And then you've got Don Jr. coming out on his own YouTube, higher than balls, as the kids say these days, and doing this with his jaw. Remember when he was at some event with his daddy right after his daddy won the election, and he kept itching his gums? I think they were at like a racetrack or something like that. And he kept sticking his hand in his pocket and scratching his gums. And we all know what that was, right? I mean, dude, like at least go into the restroom, try to hide it, something. Something else that blew my mind. I mentioned this in my last video, but I had to go back and double check because I was like, I know that I saw it with my own eyes, but I couldn't believe what I saw. When they had their first cabinet meeting, was that just yesterday? My goodness, what a cluster. It is impossible to keep up, isn't it? It is for me. I don't know about you. Anyway, the cabinet meeting where the big E was like hovering over everybody because he literally didn't have a seat at the table, but yet Mr. T, whose cabinet meeting it is, passed him the baton, asked him to speak, and let him run with it. And he, a couple of times, he has a little tiny teacup. It's like half the size, and it's white, and he's holding it, and he literally sets it down all the way onto the ground. Onto the ground. This is a room full of like 50 people, and he has his little tiny teacup on the ground because he picks it up and he drinks out of it, and then he sets it back down. And as I'm watching him do this, when I went back last night to rewatch it, because I was like, that can't be. I couldn't possibly have seen what I saw. Perhaps there was a really low table, very low to the ground, that he was setting his cup on or something. I mean, there's this giant freaking table right in front of him, and there's all these people in front of him and behind him. He could have just asked somebody to hold his little freaking teacup. I have empathy for him that he needs to have a drink of something, to wet his whistle as he's talking. But at the same time, it's just like, are you insane? Like, do you know that there's a lot of germs on the floor? Not to mention that you might kick your thing over or somebody else might trip over it. You might trip over it and hurt yourself. He had a little tiny teacup. I don't know if it was tea or water or espresso or, one of what's his face's drinks, the drinky drunky guy. What's his name? Pete Hegseth. I don't know if it was like that. Anyway, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. And one other thing I got to say from this page before I turn the page and go backwards like I did on my last live. I shared my little secret with you guys that I always go from the back to the front. And I've never done it on my videos. I always try to go from the front to the back when I'm creating my content. But I'm just going to be me, right? That's how I roll. With all this chaos, I guess my defenses are down. But that's okay. That's okay. I don't want to be defended against my viewers and my content. I want to just be myself and be candid. It's just hard. It's awkward. It's awkward to look at yourself on the screen as you're talking. But if I don't look at myself, it looks like I'm not looking at you. So I'm going to try to look at myself. I always try to look away because it makes me nervous. It makes me uncomfortable. Anyway, Caroline Levitt. I was speaking about her again yesterday. I've been speaking about her a lot. Caroline Levitt, Caroline with a K, is the Little Miss Blondie Barbie doll who's like the spokesperson for the White House or something like that. And she's just like up in your face all the time as much as she can be. And she loves getting all feisty and chewing people out and talking down to people and telling you what your problems are. And she's like 26 or 27, Little Miss Sassy Pants. And she's married to some guy who's like 32 years older than her, kind of like Gene Hackman and his wife. So hopefully they don't end up like that in another, 30 years. Anyway, they got married last December of 2023. And then she gave birth to their child July 10th, I think, of 2024. So that's not enough months to be cooking that baby unless they were, sinning. I mean, she's like this goody two shoes little Miss Catholic girl having premarital sex with some old dude. It's gross. Absolutely gross. But anyway, to each their own. So yeah, she married him after she was pregnant. She might not have known she was pregnant because, a baby gestation is 40 weeks, which is actually more like 10 months, not the 9 months that we're all taught. And July is the 7th month of the year, and it was only 10 days into the 7th month of the year. So you would say that's like 6 full months, 6.5 months, except they got married in December. So let's say that's like 7 months, 7.5 months, unless that baby was very, very, very premature, like a preemie or a micro preemie. They was doing it before they tied the knot. Terrible, isn't it? Absolutely terrible. Can't believe people do that. I would never do that. I'm kidding, of course. I mean, in this day and age, I'm just making fun of her because she's so foul and she likes to get in people's faces and play defense. Such a strong defense that she's on the offense. She's very offensive. And Mr. T says what he likes about her. I'm sure he likes her cute little blonde hair that she's always flipping and all that stupid stuff. But I'm sure what he really wants to say that he likes about her is that she's a good communicator. And the thing is she's not. She can talk, but talking at people does not make you a good communicator, does it? Raised from perdition 2 times. How nice to see you. Hi, Jazz and Fred. My parents got married in December and I attended the wedding. I'm a late July baby, but they told everyone I was a preemie. I'm so glad you said that, raised from perdition 2 times, because I know about this kind of stuff because my mommy spent the first 13 years of her life thinking she was premature, and she was like, an 8-pound baby, but she was born at 7.5 months of gestation. And she figured it out in a biology class when she had an argument with her teacher, like, no, well, I was 8 pounds and I was a preemie. And the teacher's like, no, you weren't. She's like, yeah, I was. No, you weren't. So, like, yeah, babies are viable at like 26 weeks. Micro preemies are like the 22 to 26 weeks when they're like 1 pound, 2 pounds, very touch and go. But once a baby's gestation is past 26 weeks, they'll probably make it. It's dicey, it's scary. And once you get to 37 weeks, you're considered full term. So a baby can be born 3 weeks early and still be completely developed. But shy of that 37 weeks is scary. It's no good. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that you were raised from perdition 2 times. We've talked about that some. And I'm also really happy to know that you came into this world the same way my mama did. So, my grandparents were students at OSU, not having premarital sex. And then they got married. They probably got married in like June or July or something. I don't even know. Maybe May. And then my mom was born in January. So whatever it was like 7 months, 7.5 months. They were like, yeah, we got pregnant on our wedding night. What do you know? Huh? Funny how that happens, huh? I was just 5 pounds, but I believed them for years. Finally, secret came out. Is it family secrets are so funny because it's like, what's the big deal? But it is a big deal if it's a lie and you're living a lie, and it can be devastating for children to think that they know something about where they came from and then find out they don't know. So family secrets can be really bad, especially when they get busted wide open. But, little Miss Caroline with a K, Coraline, is it Coraline or Caroline? Anyway, um, she just needs to not be so freaking nasty and stupid. Like she is not a smart person. She has words and they come out of her mouth, just like Vance. He's got words and they fall out of his mouth. They fall out of his mouth in a good order because, he went to law school, so he's trained in allowing words to fly out of your mouth and make it sound like you make sense and know what you're talking about because you use big 25-cent words, and then you got El Presidente who just opens his mouth constantly with like the diarrhea of the mouth and the same words just bigly just keep falling out. And it's like uncontrollably, and he'll use the bigly or whatever word like 6 times in one sentence because he's really having problems with his cognitive abilities. And I would imagine that they're monitoring him closely and that they're medicating him, but I'm wondering if that's not what that big bruise on the back of his hand is that he's had the last few days. I didn't see it in today's meeting, but that really big bruise on the back of his hand, I was saying how my mother would get bruises like that towards the end of her life, but usually it was when she was hospitalized and they had like the IV going in there, right? Because that's a real specific bruise, that like big, full size, like the palm of your hand, but on the back of your hand. That's like an IV bruise. So, if he's getting medical care, there's nothing wrong with that. If he's fit for service, but if he's not fit for service, who would take his place, dear goodness, no. No, 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 no. We can't have that happen. Um, let's see. And you were only 5 pounds. That's so cute. My babies were all like 10 pounds. So 5 pound babies are so teeny tiny to me. Even a regular sized baby is so teeny tiny to me. My mom wore white, and it would have been a huge scandal for her mom in front of the prestigious Presby church circle. Totally, I get it. I absolutely get it. And, some people might be pregnant on their wedding day and not know it because it takes a few weeks to figure it out. So some people were already planning on getting married and, just got busy a little too quick. Although most people these days, that's just not even a thing, right? That's so old school. Um, Yes, he just repeats the same 3 words. Bigly, strongly. What's the third one? Raised. If you can think of it, all I can think of is bigly and strongly. Ugh, probably money, right? Wealth, power, Elon. He loves his Elon, doesn't he? His little baby Elon. Yes, IV bruise. I bruise like that now all the time. My skin went to hell at menopause. I am so sorry, raised from perdition 2 times. Yeah, it's hard as we get older. It's really hard. Gotta take care of ourselves, right? So yeah, Gene Hackman made it to 95. That's pretty old. When you're a millionaire, chances are you're gonna live longer. And especially if you're married to somebody 30 years younger than you, because they can help take care of you. But I'll tell you what my speculation is with the case in case I wasn't clear earlier. I'll just get straight to the point. I won't I won't beat around the bush. I'm thinking that he might have done it to her because she was like mummified in the bathroom and one of their 3 dogs was 10 or 15 feet away from her, mummified. Her, not the dog, I don't think. There was a space heater near her head. There are a bunch of pills scattered around. He was found in the entryway in the mud room. There were sunglasses near him. It looked like he fell. I'm kind of wondering if it might have been like a American Psycho kind of thing. And then he tripped and fell. I don't think they both tripped and fell. It sounds like he might have tripped and fallen because of the way the sunglasses were, and that's what law enforcement's speculating. They are talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're like, it's very suspicious. We are doing a thorough investigation. There's no signs of suspicion. It's just like, okay. So we all know that if you're a famous, wealthy white guy, it's probably going to get covered up, right? We've seen it too many times. I mean, Robert Blake, Helena Hutchins, Unaliver. Um, who else? I mean, rich, white, female. I'm not going to name any names, but she was married to the singer of Nirvana. You know that one. Um, Okay, so also Harriet the Spy passed away, you guys. Michelle Trachtenberg, I think is how you say her name. I loved that movie. Harriet the Spy came out in the 90s, and I had my first kid in 2002. I discovered that movie with my kids. That was one of our family movies that we watched the most, because I was like laying the groundwork to get into my true crime channel down the road. But Harriet the Spy is the cutest freaking movie in the world if you haven't seen it. And Michelle Trachtenberg, again, if I'm saying her name right, she was found deceased in her New York City apartment, I think yesterday morning, same day that Gene Hackman was found. And I think they were both found yesterday. At least it was news to me yesterday for both of them. And apparently she'd had a liver transplant recently. It looked like she'd been really having a rough life. I don't know what was going on with her, but she was a child star, and we all know how sad those stories usually end, right? Typical cover up. Yeah. And yeah, like remember when Heath Ledger passed away in a New York City apartment and he was hanging out with one of those Olsen twins? Boy, did that crap get covered up fast, because of the rugs. And not only do they want to protect the families from the shame, you know, the just it's frowned upon, right? They want to protect the families from that, and that's something to be said for that. But truth is important, and I think that more than wanting to protect the families, I honestly believe that it's usually law enforcement wanting to protect the sources of the rugs, because that's what it always comes down to. Like, look at the Idaho 4 case, right? There's probably rugs involved with that, but you don't want to have to trace back where the rugs came from. And then, like, you've got that guy, Caden Young, who passed away from a rug overdose on spring break. He was from the University of Idaho, visiting Seattle, and had rugs from Emma Bailey and Demetrius Robertson. And then he unalived from those rugs that were from Idaho, but he was in Washington. And so they arrested Emma and Demetrius and put them in the same freaking jail as Koberger, the criminal defendant. And like they both had hearings on the same day. And then Demetrius and Emma got sprung because they said, oh, he passed away in Washington state just because the rugs were from this jurisdiction. They shouldn't have been arrested and jailed and tried here. They need to be arrested and jailed and tried in Thurston County or whichever county it was near Thurston County. And I can't even think of what the other county is down there, but I think it's like one county south of Thurston County because I used to live in Thurston County. Anyway, was it Castle Rock? That's not the name of the county, but I think that's the name of the town. Chehalis, Centralia. Castle Rock is where Brett Payne has another one of his meats and locker businesses, which is also really close to where Caden Young passed away. And I got to mention before I move on to the next topic that Caden Young was not only from the University of Idaho, he had been the presidente of his fraternity the year before, and he'd also been the editor of the Argonaut, the school newspaper. So he might have known some stuff. He might have been set up with what they call a hot shot, which is an intentional overdose from a dealer. I don't know. It's a question, not a statement. There we go. Anyway, Harriet the Spy, Michelle Trachtenberg, devastating, absolutely devastating. I got to say this about the Trump Gaza video that he posted on his Truth Social. Where to even begin? Why would you call your social media platform Truth Social? Like, if you want to use those words and you want to have a social media platform because you got kicked off of all the other social media platforms because you're so effing crazy, okay? So they all put you in like Facebook jail and Twitter jail and all the rest. So you just have to go make your own social media, and you want to have your social media and you want it to have truth. So you call it Truth Social. Wouldn't you call it Social Truth? Wouldn't that make more sense? Like Truth Social, those two words just don't go together in that order in my mind anyway. But anyway, that was besides the point. He put that video up of Trump Gaza. He didn't make the video. Somebody else did, or somebody's else did, and they sent it to him and he shared it. So did he watch it? Because it's whack. And when you're the El Presidente, you better not be posting crap on your Truth Social that you don't look at, that you don't know what it is. I mean, we all of us on YouTube, all of us content creators, we've learned too many times not to like watch something or read something for the first time when we're on live, because it's never what you think it's going to be. Everybody's doing the bait and switch thing. So if he's just like, "Oh, Trump Gaza, cool," and he just posts it without watching it, and then, you know, it's kind of perverted in my opinion, and it's really demented in my opinion, and it's offensive. It's really offensive, I think, to people that are from there. I've read some things online that people from there are just horrified at that video. I can't imagine anybody not being horrified by that video, including him, but he's the one who shared it on his Truth Social. So is that evidence of diminished mental health capacity? I think it might be. Again, if he didn't review it, that's just stupid and you need to check yourself. And if he did review it, that's kind of even stupider, in my opinion. Like, if it was me and somebody made that video with me being a 40-foot gold statue in the middle of town square and all the rest of it, I would be so offended. I would have their heads. I would. But I'm sure he was so flattered because they made him so tall and slender in his gold statuesqueness. His legs are like ultra long and he's like ultra slender. When I mentioned it in my last video, I was saying how he kind of looks like Slender Man. Remember Slender Man? That whole crazy crap. Anyway, so he's talking about this Trump gold card for immigration that is just so freaking twisted. $5 million, he's saying, like, oh, well, anybody can come into our country and purchase citizenship for $5 million. And then if they do, how did he say it? He said, if they purchase a gold visa or green card, it's basically a green card, except it's a gold card. So if they purchase that, they can come into our country and get rich or get wealthy. And it's like, well, wouldn't they have to be wealthy already to spend 5 million? And then it got me thinking, I bet he's going to try to give them to people on credit. So then they're like indentured servants, and then he's really got them by the balls and he can do anything he wants with them. Like, why is he behind people like the Tate brothers? Why is he supporting people like that? That's so frightening. They're traffickers. They're human traffickers. They brag about it. And he's supporting them. And he says he's against that kind of thing. But all the evidence suggests otherwise. It's very frightening. So if he's given people these $5 million gold Trump Visa cards and they only have like 4 million, so they still owe him $1 million, and then he can charge them interest, he can basically have their firstborn, like that kind of craziness. It's so gangster. It's so mobster. Everything he does is so gangster and mobster. It's kind of like Tony Soprano as our president. Don't you think so? Raised from Perdition 2 times, President Shylock. It's scary. He has such an ego and talks out of both sides of his mouth with all those same words. Somebody is letting him hang himself, maybe Vance. He was John Belushi. Yeah. Oh, which one was John Belushi? I almost said Pete Hegseth. No, the Australian guy with the Olsen kid, the Olsen sister, Heath Ledger. We loved Heath Ledger, didn't we? Was he John Belushi? Or do you think John Belushi was hit with a hot shot? I mean, now that I'm studying so many of these suspicious passings away that weren't considered suspicious passings away, There's just like, oh, another one bites the dust. Yeah, life in the fast lane. Yeah, addictions. Like Matthew Perry, a real recent one. Um, that Liam guy in what country was he in? Spain or something like that. I'm not familiar enough with the Liam guy. He was in like one of those boy bands. Is it Liam Payne? Is that his name? Let me see. I think it is Liam Payne. But yeah, first they just say, oh, yeah, these people, they just did this to themselves. Yeah, Liam Payne. And what's his boy band? Is it like, it's not Boys to Men? Is it One Direction or something like that? Yeah, One Direction. Okay. You know how I am. I have to have my gadget to make my brain work. It's like my extended computer chip. So as long as I'm touching it, the brain will function. If I'm not touching it, brain no worky. He was in America, One Direction, Liam Payne. Oh, I thought he was in South America, right? Yeah, that's what you said. He was in South America. Gotcha. And yeah, now all this crazy stuff is coming out with it. Let's see. And then he had the South American girlfriend. Um, but what country was it? Argentina. There we go. Traveled to Argentina. Buenos Aires. Very sad. And yeah, then we had like the guy from oh the guy from Lincoln Park and the guy from Soundgarden. Both of those guys allegedly were working on a project about trafficking, and they both kind of self unalived accidentally, naturally, right? Right around the same time. Like, was it almost like a year to the day, or was it a year to the day? Chris Cornell is the Soundgarden guy, and then the other guy, the guy from Lincoln Park. Let's see. Chris Cornell, and then Lincoln Park guy. Chester Benning. Okay. So weren't they like exactly a year apart? I want to check it out because they might have been close to a year. They might have been a year to the day. The conspiracy theory is that they were self unalived by other people, right? They were working on a documentary. This is the first thing that comes up. They were working on a documentary about the Hollywood pedophile ring, and both got taken out for it. So Chester Bennington passed away on Chris Cornell's birthday. Okay, that's how it went. September 11th of 2020. No, this is when they made a documentary about it, about Chris Cornell and Soundgarden and Audio Slave. Wow, Chris Cornell would have been 60 by now. Chester Bennington passed away 7 years ago today. This was 7 months ago. Anyway, they were best friends. So some people think that they were both taken out for the project that they were working on. Other people think that it was on an unintentional, accidental, and some people think that it was actually intentional. And I think that they are both on record as being self unalived on purpose. because that's usually the safest way to do it for a cover up. Because if you say it's accidental, self unalived, that kind of leaves the door open for maybe somebody else's involvement, right? Look at you, raised from perdition 2 times. Good night, Fred. Sorry I missed your thing. Okay, it's scary. He was such an ego, talks out both sides of his mouth. The Idaho kid. Yes, he didn't administer shot to himself. Belushi. Oh, yeah. It was, you know who else was probably unalived by other is River Phoenix. River Phoenix was given a drink with H in it at the Viper Room that was owned by Johnny Depp. The drink was handed to him from one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think his name is Chad or something like that. And then he instantly croaked. Horrible, 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 horrible. And then they tried to say that it was like cold medicine. It was a severe reaction to cold medicine or some crap like that. He was in South America One Direction, Liam Payne. Good night, guys. I have been awake since before 1 a.m. and falling asleep in my computer chair. LOL. Computer chair. I said that all funny. And have I already been on for almost an hour? I am going to need to wrap up too. It's just 9:30, but I've got a big day ahead of me tomorrow. I got to get up early. It's another one of my yoga weekends. I love them. They're a lot, but they're awesome. Let's see. That's why I came on tonight, because I knew I wouldn't be able to come on over the weekend for almost for positive for sure. I didn't think I was going to be able to come on tonight. Like, that's why I didn't give any advance notice. Was I don't like planning a live and then having to cancel it like I did with the one that I had scheduled for 2:00 today. So good night, Fred Field, Chester, and Chris. They were taken out, raised from perdition 2 times. Chester Bennington. Well, I believe that you know a lot about these things because you seem well versed in whatever it is that you're talking about. All of my interactions with you, you have seemed very solid in your research and your statements. So I respect your opinion a great deal. He is a Podesta son? What? Bennington's a Podesta? Wait. Huh? Serious? Yes, Phoenix by Johnny Depp. Right. Yeah. Is Bennington related to the Podestas? I gotta ask Google. Google will tell me. Google knows everything. No, actually, Google doesn't know everything, so you always got to be careful with Google. You got to cross-reference for sure. Anything on the internet, anything anywhere, you always want to cross-reference because it might just be different opinions too, just different pieces of information. So Chester Bennington Podesta. You know, I found out recently that Heather Locklear is related to Trump indirectly, very, very, very indirectly. I think her mom was sisters with Marla Maples, or maybe her. Yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, if you Google it, Google will tell you. It says, well, this says Lawrence Rockefeller, John Podesta, and Chester Bennington are not related. But what about the wow, things just go wacko on the interwebs, huh? Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Chester Bennington, what did Chester Bennington say about John Podesta? So maybe they knew each other? Why does Chester Bennington look like John Podesta? Interesting. Is that what you're saying? That he is Podesta's son. That is what you're saying. Interesting. 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 Wow, poor Heather. So very indirectly, it's like her mother is related to Marla Maples, and Marla Maples was only married to Donnie for a couple of years, right? And they had that little kid together. I think the little girl, Tiffany, was already born when they had their wedding. I don't know. It's hard to keep up with these blundering fools. I could be wrong, maybe not. Info might be wrong. I was told he was his son, no proof. So yeah, the internet says so. So it is, that's proof right there. No, I'm just kidding. We'll look into that some more. So what else? I wanted to say the way that girl Caroline with a K, the way she's always saying how all these people voted for Trump, the way Donnie's always saying all these people voted for me. It's like, would you shut up already? If you really won the election, that's a given. You don't need to keep saying it again and again. The more they say it, the more it makes me think that they cheated, and they know they cheated, and they know that people didn't really put them in office. And the way they're always saying it's a democracy, but then they're trying to destroy the democracy. I don't understand. Um, but the thing about Elon and his crazy cars that want to like crash into everything and blow up and unalive people, why is he so hell-bent on having robots and cars that drive themselves? Like, the rest of us, we don't have anything against driving ourselves. In fact, a lot of us probably like driving ourselves, right? But when you're like a rich kid born in apartheid in South Africa, and you're white and you're really wealthy with a silver spoon in your mouth, and you've never had to drive yourself anywhere, it's probably really annoying when you have to drive your own car and you don't know how. So therefore, you need to invent a car that can drive for you. And who cares if it crashes and kills people, as long as you don't have to drive yourself, because, that's so low class. They have to gloat. It reeks of cheats when they keep mentioning it. Yes, I agree. He's a megalomaniac. They don't take no for an answer to obsessions and bad ideas. So much obsession, so freaking much obsession. So there's those two astronauts that are stuck at that space station. They've been there for 250 days. They were supposed to be there for 8 days. I'm thinking that the big E and the little T would be bringing them back to Earth if they had the ability. The word on the internet is that they're scheduled to come back to Earth this month of March that starts tomorrow. But 250 days is a really long time. And I hope that they're okay. I mean, the effects of being in space for that long is not good. Craziness. It's absolute craziness. Like I don't know, because I'm not an astronaut, but I know it does weird things. The timelessness, the weightlessness, weird things to your body, weird things to your psychology. That's why astronauts need to be so fit, and so fit psychologically. And I just hope that they're okay. I know they've been keeping really good spirits. Um, I hope they make it back. But why are they still out there, man? If they've got all of this ability with the space station and everything, bring the Earthlings back to Earth, please. Yeah, they might not survive the reentry. Oh, or even if they do survive the reentry, it's like the long-term effects of the reentry. So yeah, I know sometimes the rocket ships can like explode on reentry. We've seen that happen. Um, they are in such good spirits. If you see them on the internet, such good spirits. So all we can do is pray for them and hope that this is the month that they're brought home, because they can't stay up there forever. It's what goes up must come down, right? So, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So, why is Mr. E, the big E, why is he inventing all these things that are not necessary, like cars that drive themselves, robots, spaceships to help you go move to Mars? That's not necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. If he can do all this wonderful stuff, why can't he fix some of the problems that are right here on Earth? Oh, I guess he doesn't care. Like homelessness, um, medical problems. Nah, let's just go to Mars and forget about it, right? So, yeah, I think I said this earlier, but I'd like to end on this note because it's so important. Raised from perdition two times. And I might not have really spelled it out like I meant to. That the most important part of communication is listening. If you do not listen, there's no communication happening. So you can talk and talk and talk and talk, but if other people aren't listening, then you're attempting to communicate, but you're not communicating. And so when Mr. T was saying that Caroline with a K was such a good communicator because she can throw words out of her face at a rapid speed, harshly, that doesn't constitute a good communicator. A good communicator listens to other people, especially when you're in a political position like that as a spokesperson for the White House. You need to listen to what people's concerns are, what people's questions are. By listening and addressing the thoughts and feelings of those around you, that's going to go a long way. That's going to do a lot for your administration. That's going to do a lot for public trust in you. So, if anybody knows and wants to communicate that to her, that she could be a good communicator if she would shut up and listen once in a while, right? Like, seriously, that was the best thing for me about um, being a psychotherapist in private practice, was just to listen to people. It's a really good exercise that we can all do, listening to each other, listening to our family members, listening to our friends. It's really the biggest gift that any of us has to offer anyone, because so often people don't feel heard and so often people are not heard. So I appreciate you being here, Raised from Perdition two times, and Fred Field, who was here earlier. Um, I really appreciate you being here and hearing me, and I'm hearing you. Let's see what else you've said. Um, their body mass has changed, though reentry forces could be detrimental. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, it's been a long time since I've studied that information, so I forget, but it's all kinds of crazy. It's all kinds of crazy. Yeah, they have to like eat well and exercise, and then still there's a lot of bizarre stuff that can happen. But I guess that's if they're traveling at the speed of light too, right? That really complicates things. That's where you're like aging backwards or forwards, or I don't know. It's wild. It is wild, wild. Um, why don't they invent water cleaners and air filters and energy? Well, because that would be too helpful. Yeah. Yeah. And not just water cleaners, but ways to create water, mixing your hydrogen and your oxygen when you're in a desert, or, there's a drought like there had been in California this whole last year. Um, or even like a synthetic red stuff that runs through our veins, so that when people need transfusions, they don't have to risk getting um, other people's diseases and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. As synthetic red stuff might not work, but if you're gonna be a genius with science, why not do things to help people, not just to create amusement parks in outer space? I mean, we've got cartoons for that, right? I believe, or I agree, listening is the most important part. Yes, 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 yes. They're oblivious to others. Well, it's so nice to meet with you here tonight, Raised from Perdition 2 times. I was wondering who I might bump into by coming on live on a Friday evening, because I rarely do lives in the evenings these days. I try to do them in the earlier part of the day. You probably know, if you've seen my channel recently, Coco's had cancer treatment. Where is she? Did she leave the room? Coco. Yeah, she's over there. Coco, come here, baby. She has had her cancer removed twice, and then she's had radiation therapy to prevent it from growing back again. And then last week, she had a severe reaction to the radiation therapy. So she has done so well this whole last year, and I thought, man, we're almost there. And then she got baboon butt last weekend. It was so sad. Her like skin fell off of her rear end, because that's where the cancer was, and that's where they had to hit it with the lasers with the radiation. And they said her hair would fall out, so we were expecting the hair to fall out. We were not expecting how horrible it was. But they said that it was a severe reaction, one of the more extreme severe reactions. But she's out of the woods now. Hopefully she'll stay out of the woods. She's over here. Coco, come here, baby. She's all chill. So yeah, they are oblivious to others. She is doing better. She's doing great. Thanks for asking. So yeah, it's just been very hectic with you know, last week I took her to the vet like Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. What day is it today? It's Friday. And then I forget how many days I've taken her there this week. Because I did, like I said, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, maybe Wednesday. Yeah, it's a lot. I keep having to take her, so um, we'll see. We'll see. We're very fortunate so far, so good. And like I said, she's doing better after that severe reaction. So thank goodness, because she's my baby. She's my girl. And then there's Mookie. Mookie, come here. Do you want to be on the TV screen? Come here. Let people see how cute you are, baby. Come here. Oh, my little Mookie, if you're still here, Raised from Perdition 2 times. This is my little wiener dog, who is only a quarter wiener dog, but she thinks she's all wiener dog. And I always like to see if you can see that perfect black heart on her forehead. Isn't that amazing? I always say I hit it with a Sharpie right before I put her on to make sure that she's got it. But no, it's untouched. It's all natural. She's such a silly baby. And she is a baby. So she's half Chiweenie and thinks she's all wiener dog. Let me just drop her. Ah, baby girl. So I was thinking with Big E and Little T that they might have been dropped on their heads when they were babies, right? That might answer all of our questions. She's so cute with her heart. Yes, my kitty has a black heart on her hip. And sometimes corgis and maybe wiener dogs too, they can have like a little heart on their rear ends. Like, it's adorable. I've seen a lot of cute animals going to the vet. Um, the the uh, the main big hospital vet. You see lots of sad cases, especially on the weekends, because that's more like emergency crisis things that don't have a good outcome. During the week, it's more scheduled stuff like the cancer treatment. And so you just see a lot of cute pets, but you see a lot of sad people too. Yes, boxers have heart cowlicks. They were raised by Dr. Evil. Oh, I thought you were talking about the pets. You're talking about little E or little T and big E. Yes. I know every time they say billions and trillions, and I'm like gazillions, man, it's ridiculous. And I guess it's all lies. All of their billions and trillions is all just like made up numbers that they pull out of their rear ends or thin air or both. Vet visits are sad at times. They are sad at times, and they're also super cute at times when you see all these other adorable pets coming in and hopefully having better outcomes, right? So, all right. Well, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up so that we can both get on with our evenings, probably watch some more content, and I'm going to try to hit the hay. Love and light. Thank you again for being here. And you want to remind me what state you're in, raised from perdition 2 times? I know it's south of me, right? If you want to share, if you don't, that's okay. I'm in Ohio. Great to see you. Have a great weekend. Yes, you too. Florida. You're all the way down in Florida. Man, everybody's in Florida. Oh, and the Tate brothers just got there yesterday. I'm sorry, raised from perdition 2 times. I remember now that you say that, I totally remember. Yeah, it's beautiful down there. It's paradise, right? As long as you're not getting hit with a hurricane or a Tate brother, you, or like Steven Stearns or Casey Anthony, or the Laundry family. Go on and on, huh? Except for jerks. Yeah, well, they're everywhere, unfortunately, but I do think that Florida has more than its fair share of crazy people and crazy things with the alligators and the giant snakes and the Everglades. Oh, and they've got the giant rats out there on the islands. Oh, the Keys, Largo, Key Largo has those giant weird rats from Australia. Wow. So yeah, yesterday in my last live, I was talking about the giant rats in, is it Mongolia, that Donnie Jr. was illegally hunting and eating, and they carry the bubonic plague, and it's illegal to hunt them and eat them because of the bubonic plague. Um, and yeah. Anyway, that's insane. And so yeah, those the animals, I was looking to see if I wrote down what type of animal it was. um I know I have it here somewhere, but anyway, they're cute, but they're like giant, they look like giant squirrels. They're rodents. Is it marmots? It might be marmots. I think it's Mongolia. Dang it, now I have to know before I can hang up and be gone. Yeah. The giant rat, or no, giant squirrel hunted by Don Jr. This was a couple of years ago. um the Mongolian hunting trip cost $60,000 more. It was in 2020. um Donald Trump Jr.'s controversial trophy hunting trip to Mongolia cost taxpayers nearly $60,000 more than the government previously disclosed. Well, that's nice. And um, what are those Mongolian rats called? Still not telling me. Oh, and he said that they're contrabandy to eat. That was the best. Contrabandy. He invented a word. I like that word. Kind of contrabandy to be hunting and eating these illegal animals. And and toying with getting the bubonic plague. Because, yeah, that's who cares? It's a good thing to toy with, right? Oh, I can't find it. But, bubonic plague, Bobby brainworms. I'm gonna put that link to that Daily Show with Jon Stewart video of the choreographer who taught Elon how to move more like a human, because it ends with a really good joke about Bobby brainworms. All right. Yeah, those dang giant squirrel things. Anyway, I'll look it up and then I'll figure it out for the next time I come on live, which might not be till Monday, but whatever it is, love you. Nice to see you. Be well. Make sure you get hydrated and well nourished and well rested. And make sure you listen to yourself, listen to others. And I think that's it. Just be kind. Peace out. Love and light. Thanks so much again for being here. I really appreciate you. Take care.